Yeah, it's pretty wayward from Saudi, but there is movement there in the air. Looks a stronger New Zealand team to me. A couple of changes. They've left out the two debutants from Mount Maunganui, so stiffen their batting with Will Young, and Matt Henry will improve their bowling. It'll mean that Wagner won't have to take the new ball, I assume. Henry will take it, I would have thought.
Here is Saudi once again, and that's again wide of the off stump, a little wider than Saudi would want. Make the batsman play early on, especially. Yeah, Michael Bracewell batting at 8, I find. New Zealand did the same thing, didn't they, in the summer against England? I think for the Trent Bridge Test match, they had Bracewell, who is predominantly a batsman, really. He's only been bowling off spin for a couple of years, although he bowls it very well. But he's batting at 8, and in fact, Henry has a couple of Test 50s. He's not the worst, number 9. Here is Southey again, bowls. Crawley comes forward and once more steers it into the gully.
Yeah, Mitchell will have to do a bit of bowling, won't he, in this game? We didn't see him with the ball in Mount Maunganui, but so they've left out a bowler, brought in an extra batsman here. So they've got the three main seamers, Southey, Henry and Wagner. Then they've got the off-spin Bracewell, but Mitchell will have to do some work. What you need in Wellington, particularly when the southerly blows, are good into-the-wind bowlers, people who can just kind of keep going into the wind and hold an end.
Here's Southey once again up to the crease now and bowls once more. It's a little too wide of the off stump. So the first delivery of the Test match was the best of the opening over from Tim Southey. He was a little wide. Well, I mean, Daryl Mitchell I thought he might have given up bowling or become a bit more of a part-timer, but apparently he's just been under-bowled or not bowled in recent times. But I suppose, you know, when you bat in the top 5, and he's been batting at 5 recently, you regard yourself as more of a specialist. But yeah, I mean, Southey said at the toss, we'll have to make use of Daryl Mitchell more. He might be very useful, actually.
Well, he's a type of bowler, a little like Colin de Grandhomme before him, who played that role of the all-rounder, really, that on a pitch that just does a bit off the seam, they can be very accurate and nagging, and they can be effective. So it will be Henry with a new ball, and they'll be hoping that they bowl better at Ben Duckett at the start of the innings than they did in Mount Maunganui, where they allowed Duckett to get a bit of a flyer, actually, by bowling poorly at him.
Right. It will be Matt Henry running in from the Government House end towards us and towards Ben Duckett, more importantly, and he's immediately off the mark, and England are underway, tucking it off his pads out towards deep backward square leg. It's fielded down there in the deep. Is that Neil Wagner? Yes, it is. So Wagner is unaccustomed to taking the new ball, at least at Test level. He's obviously done it more at first class level, but it was a role that in recent years he was unfamiliar with at Mount Maunganui when he had to take the new ball along with Tim Southey. So I think he'll be happier bowling first change. Henry once again up to the crease, bowls to Duckett outside the off stump. Leaves it alone, taken by Tom Blundell. The first 3 days of this Test match were sold out before England even arrived. Oh, well, before the series was actually under. I think they were in Queenstown playing golf.
It's probably a combination of the fact that there's not been that much international cricket in this current season in New Zealand, but also the Bazball effect. You know, England are a damn good team to watch, and people are keen to come and support.
Here's Henry once again, and that's a good one. That's beaten Duckett outside the off stump. There was a belated appeal from Tom Blundell and the slip cordon, and there was a noise. It just didn't quite sound right. Tim Southey is now considering his options and about referring this. Tom Blundell, I mean, it was a late call, and it's one of those ones where he's caught it and then thought, hang on, there was a noise. It just seemed to be late going up for it, but he's referred it.
Well, there was a definite noise. The question is, did it flick the back pad? It was a good ball from Henry, nipped off the seam away from Ben Duckett, and as it passed there was a definite sound, but I don't know whether it was outside edge or just off the back of his pad. I suspect it is the back.
Close to the bat. Please confirm with all right.
The back leg, I reckon.
Alim Dar's the third umpire, and Duckett looks particularly unconcerned. He's very relaxed, and he's just had a little chat with Zach Crawley. And Michael Atherton, absolutely correct. It's just hit the top of the thigh pad, hasn't it?
Yeah, and that was the instinct. Just because Blundell didn't really go up with any conviction, none of the slips did, and it was a belated review then from Southey, who stood at mid-on. Just didn't look right, didn't feel right. Duckett didn't look fussed, as you say.
Tim Southey would now be looking at his slipcord and saying, what did you talk me into that for? Henry in again to Duckett, comes forward, plays it defensively up towards mid-on. And you might have heard the trumpet in the background. That is Simon Finch, the Barmy Army trumpeter.
Am I right in saying he got presented with a repaired trumpet yesterday by Tim Southey? I think his trumpet got damaged, and I'm fairly certain they gave him either a new one or a repaired one.
Repaired is what I heard. Yeah, it was repaired. Here is Matt Henry once again, bowls to Duckett. He's very good off his pads, as every international opener is, to one degree or another, and he's picked up another single down to Wagner at long leg. I don't know how it got damaged. Was it in transit? But anyway, word went out, and a trumpet repairer volunteered his services. And Ben Duckett is on to 3. And England are also 3 without loss, coming towards the end of the second over. New Zealand winning the toss. Bowling first, as has become habitual at the Basin Reserve. And as I said, 11 of the last 20 Test matches, the team bowling first has claimed all 10 wickets on the first day. Henry in again. Crawley drives a little uppishly up towards mid-off, and Southey dives to his right, tumbles, knocks it on, and Crawley's off the mark with a resulting single. And England move on to 4 without loss after 2 overs.
2 wayward overs, I would say, actually, as well, particularly Southey's first over. He only bowled 1 ball really that threatened Crawley, and Henry didn't quite get his line right to Duckett there, gave him 2 easy balls off his pads. So there is a bit of pressure sometimes on the bowlers when you opt to bowl first in a Test match and you see a bright green pitch. Experienced as they are, Southey and Henry, there's just a little bit of expectation, and sometimes you can go searching for wickets. They've got to try and settle in quickly and just bowl as accurately as possible, because there will be a bit of help there in the surface.
Second over from Tim Southey. He's up to the crease now, bowls, and it's again in at the pads. He's overcompensated 5 times. He was too wide at the off stump in his first over. 2 straight this time, and Crawley helps it on its way down to long leg. And again, is that Wagner's doing long leg to long leg?
Yeah.
He's got 150 yards between.
In a left-right-handed opening partnership, you know you're going to be doing a bit of running. But there is nobody fitter than Neil Wagner, let me tell you. Him and Trent Boult used to have a race, didn't they, up that hill at Mount Maunganui, up the volcano. They did it in about 10 minutes flat. I saw you coming down there with a sweat on the other day, by the way. I bet you didn't do it in 10 minutes.
I got it down to 23. The first time I went up was half an hour. I got it down to 23 by the 4th ascent.
How did he do that in 10 minutes? It's unbelievable.
No, it really is. It's an aerobic challenge. Here is Southey round the wicket to Duckett, who comes forward and clips it out towards square leg, straight to the field of Devon Conway. No run there. Wellington is a magnificent running city as well, provided you stick to the flat waterfront, because it's also one of the hilliest cities in the world.
Yeah, and just to paint the picture for listeners at home, the ground is in Basin Reserve, as it's called, so it's surrounded by these hills on all sides. Fantastic.
Southey again, forward comes Duckett, again playing defensively out on the leg side, and there's no run. The famous tunnel away to our left that goes through the mountain. It's single file either way, built in the 1930s when traffic was less of an issue. But now, tell you what, it used to be really clogged up in rush hour. Now it's just really clogged up. about as free-flowing as it ever will be at 11 o'clock in the morning. Here's Saudi again. It's a half volley, and Duckett, eyes light up. He throws his hands at that one. I think possibly did try to hit it a little too hard and didn't time it. Got a bottom edge. The ball trickles harmlessly out on the onside. Doesn't feel, because of the temperature, I think it's about 15, 16 degrees. It might not actually have reached the forecast high for the day yet. It doesn't feel like a swinging day. It feels a bit chilly for that. 3 slips and a gully. Southey in again around the wicket. Duckett comes forward, pushes up to mid-off, no run.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's the point I was trying to make, that there are two aspects to the conditions, aren't there? There's the pitch in front of you, and then there's the overheads and what's all around, and the pitch says bowl, but actually with a very chilly southerly wind, very blustery, very cool, not ideal bowling conditions in that sense. So yeah, absolutely you could see why Southey wanted to bowl there.
Southey up to the crease again, bowls, and Duckett comes forward, and that's a good delivery, and it's a very good defensive shot as well. Pushes it straight back to the bowler. 3 overs gone. England are 5 without loss. They were asked to bat first, and it's time for us to say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is, to Jared Kimber. Hello, Jared. You're looking remarkably fresh.
Well, I didn't have to get up at 1 a.m. for this one, so this is much better for me. It's a comfortable time. I just wanted to talk about Neil Wagner. You were talking about how he's not going to be bowling with the new ball as much. So it's from over 0 to 20. He averages 39 in Test match cricket, which is 6 runs more than the average seam bowler. So he's a very poor bowler with the new ball in Test cricket. From overs 2 to 80, he averages 29 with the ball, and so he's 4 runs better than the average seam bowler. But he also bowls far more than any other seam bowler in the world in those middle overs as well. So he's high usage and he's better than average in that point. It shows you how much better he is with the older ball.
Oh, Henry begins his second over, and it beats Zach Crawley outside the off stump. Jared, and Mount Maunganui, Neil Wagner, his first 10 overs cost 100 runs, didn't they? Which,
at one stage he had the world record for the most runs ever in a 10 over spell. He ended up only with the second worst runs in a 10 over spell.
Who retained that record?
I think it was Yasir Shah. It was a leg spinner, I think.
Here is Matt Henry once again, and Zach Crawley comes forward, pushing that one straight back to the bowler. I mean, it was extraordinary. I just remember thinking at the 10 over mark that that would have been one of the 3 most expensive ODI returns in history.
Yeah, it was up there with. I know Michael Lewis had the record, didn't he, against South Africa in that 400 game, and also Rashid Khan went for a lot of runs in the World Cup, didn't he?
Henry in again outside the off stump. Crawley leaves that one alone, and there's no run. I think Mick Lewis still has that record. Does he not?
I don't know. I wouldn't bring it up with him. He's quite an angry man. I'm not sure that I would. I mean, how many times since that has someone brought that up with him? He also, about 2 games before, won Australia a game when they needed 6 runs. New Zealand needed 6 runs off the last over, and Mick Lewis bowled a brilliant over to win the game. But no one remembers that when you break the other record.
Indeed. Of course they don't. 3 slips, staggered. First quite deep, third alongside the keeper, even in front of the keeper. He's gone, he's taken it behind. Crawley pushed at Henry's delivery, got a thin edge. Tom Blundell takes the catch, throws the ball up in the air, and although Crawley hesitated, he knew that he'd got a touch, and the finger went up from Chris Gaffney. Matt Henry's made the breakthrough with the thinnest of feather edges, and Crawley is on his way.
Yep, Crawley's struggles continue. Not easy conditions this morning. And that was a good ball from Matt Henry on a good length, really, and just moving away a touch. Crawley keen to get forward and keen to put back to ball. But in the end, it just took a faint edge through. Simple catch to Tom Blundell. And Zach Crawley, what a struggle, really, he's finding Test cricket to be. That average below 30. I think England will continue to stick with him whilst the team is winning, but he could do with some runs soon.
Ollie Pope makes his way out to the middle. We had a wonderful interview with his parents who are at Mount Maunganui and are also here at the Basin Reserve, talking about when he received the phone call from Brendan McCullum to say that not only was he in the squad at the beginning of the English summer, but that he would be batting at number 3, and say that it's a position he'd never batted in before, not even for Surrey. But I don't know, Michael. What would you say? I mean, he hasn't torn it up, has he? But he looked comfortable.
Yes, he's got a couple of hundreds. I think before that game at Mount Maunganui, when I looked at the figures, he was averaging a tad over 40 in the 11 months that Stokes and McCullum had been in charge, with a couple of hundreds. So, and this was on the back of a very poor couple of years for England in the middle order. So he's definitely thriving under Stokes and McCullum, and in this position at number 3, which is a vital position in any Test match team. And he's going to have his work cut out here. Henry and Southey, and a green top and a bit of movement.
Matt Henry then to Ollie Pope, no change in the field, still 3 slips of gully, cover mid-off, mid-on, square leg, and he uses his feet first ball, does Ollie Pope. He's taking a little shuffle, 2-step shuffle down the pitch to his first ball.
He does this as much as anybody now. I know Stokes does it a lot, but Pope probably as much as anybody. This kind of slightly frenetic skip down to even the quickest bowlers to try and put them off their length. Well, it's one way of playing. It wouldn't have been my way of playing.
First ball though, yeah. It's just get those feet moving. Here is Matt Henry again. Once more, uses his feet and clips it off his toes through square leg for the first boundary of the innings. Well, fancy that. He's gone down the wicket to Matt Henry, bowling mid-130s, and to his second delivery, he's turned it into a full-length delivery and clipped it away through the leg side for 4. And England are up to 9 for 1.
That was a lovely piece of time.